Welcome, everybody. Today, I'm going to be me and James Rink are going to be talking about the super soldiers in the secret war that has been going on out in space against different non terrestrials. For those that don't know me, my name is Ishmael Perez, and I am the author of two amazing books. The first one's called The Secret Government Invisible Architects, and the second one is called Our Cosmic Origin. Well, it says I'm live on my end. Okay, Our Cosmic Origin, both which are available on Amazon. And like I said, last podcast, I do have a birthday special coming up for those that want to have a whole hour Zoom with me. Only 20 individuals are going to be allowed for only $400 on the 1st of November. I'm only going to allow for 20 people. I'm going to be sharing some intimate information that I can't normally share on platforms like this. And I'm also going to share my connections with Valley and Thor for those that want to really get to know me on a personal level and how I get all my information, especially when it comes to the galactics. Well, for those 20 people that sign up for my birthday special on the 1st of November, I will be divulging a lot of information that I normally can't on a podcast. In either case, the link for that is on my website. It was I believe it's been on since last night. Go to my website, ourcosmicorigin.com, to secure your spot for my special event for only 20 people, and that's it, okay? For only 20 people. I'm also going to be, what else? Any other announcements other than that? Oh, yeah, don't forget to get your folium, guys. As you guys know, they continue to spray us with nanoparticulates. And this is the only stuff that actually eliminates all the metals in your body, cleaning out the mitochondria of the cells, and of course, taking out the parasites, which need metals to exist in your body. So just remember, guys, that we are invaded from within. And this is the stuff that is going to prevent that bodily invasion from taking place. The link is always in the description. Get your folium now for those that have not gotten it. And I'm going to be bringing in James Rink, the author of Lone Wolf. This is his book. And this is a very in-depth, fascinating book, not only regarding the secret space program, but the different branches of the super soldier programs that have been, existing for over 80 years. So we're going to talk to James Rink right about now. Welcome, James. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you for inviting me on here today. And hello, guests, for the Real Ishmael Perez Show. So this is my first time appearance on this show, and I look forward to this conversation today.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, first of all, I would like to ask you, I have read your book, and then in your book, you did describe your childhood experiences that hinted at your involvement in the secret space programs. Like, what were the earliest memories that you made that made you realize that something unusual was happening to you, James?
Absolutely. So as a child, I would often sleep under my bed because I would see this gray alien. My mom would watch these videos about the aliens in Area 51, right? So then so when I was a little bit older, I got a regression on it. And of course, they were picking it up, taking me. But it was later on that I realized those particular grays were actually trying to help me, not trying to torture me. And I know that through my contact with Sonny Cito. Do you know who Sonny Cito is?
No, never.
Sonny Cito, she's an autistic lady that she says she was one of the grays aboard the craft at Roswell, and she was the pilot. She said that she was told not to go to planet Earth, not to go down. There's electrical storm. Of course, they had the radar, but right, as the radar messed it up. And she ignored the warning, and she crashed. She died, and then she got caught in the reincarnation cycle. And as punishment, they put her in an autistic body. But so she's connected with the Gray Collective. And I was asking, like, well, why are they doing all this stuff to me? And she said that it was a group of reptilians, and that aboard the craft I can shapeshift into a reptilian named Travik, and I'll put that in my book. But anyway, that's the little more weird stuff I don't really go talk about online, but I think your people can handle it. At least I hope so.
Oh yeah. All of my.
But don't ask me to say. So as far as like these avatar bodies, Our
Yeah.
consciousness can be projected. So we can have bodies that, like for instance, extraterrestrial. It could be they would mix the Falcon DNA with human DNA, and they would put you on a mission off world. So there was one mission where I was put into a reptilian body, and I got to visit Orion Prime.
Mm-hmm.
And in this flash of a memory that I had, I see myself holding a piece. It wasn't paper; it was like a pad, right? It had a list of the Cabal's activities, like, oh, there's 400 ships. Oh, they're abducting like 2 million women a year, and so we delivered this to Orion Prime, the Draco High Command, the Draco Queen. So I don't remember the Draco Queen memory. I just saw the flat. They had these giant spires on like Corsican in this building. The buildings were like that architecture. So, but great. So as far as other memories of the childhood, I had myself awakening more into like my mid-20s.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the contacts really started kicking in, where I get abducted probably almost every day. I get needle marks, cut marks, and so. And then I had an experience. We can talk about that, but I'll yield the mic to you. If you have any other questions, go ahead.
We were actually at a show together 2 years ago at the Alien event. I do remember you telling us that you had just been abducted during the event, right? And you were still kind of startled after that. So you're still getting abducted, huh?
Yeah. So I had a mark show up 2 days ago. If you want to, I could send you a physical. I mean, I could picture, physical proof. I can send myself over there, but I can show you some photos. So typically, it'll be like little laser marks. It could be a triangular prong mark with 3 prongs. I remember one day it was February, whatever Valentine's Day was in 20. Sorry, not 20. It was 2007. Because they like to take tissue samples that can regenerate quickly. So inside your mouth, inside the nose, usually scoop marks, of course, under the finger. So this DNA is being used by the group of reptilians to create clones of me to convert them to super soldiers. So, but this particular day there was a heart. They carved a heart inside my nose, and then I would get triangular marks in my mouth, my nose, and so. These marks are geometrical in shape. I don't have a cat. There's no spiders crawling in my mouth at night when I'm sleeping, or sometimes it happens when you're in the shower or when you're on an airplane. Even I remember one time I was like, "Oh, great, they must." So it's not just when you're sleeping; they can get you anytime. So there is a temporal displacement technology that this particular secret space program group has now. Many of your listeners are probably aware that, of course, we have a space force, right? So that's supposed to be like the more advanced, DARPA. But so above the space force, we have a third group, and these are the different planetary corporations who have access to extremely advanced technology that's not given to the general public. And it's these particular groups that can do the time displacement technology, human cloning, and creating super soldiers.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And just to let you know, my entire audience is fully awake, fully aware. So, don't think that it's going to be going over their head.
Yeah.
So we could, talk about anything you want. They're not going to take it at sci-fi. I believe that everybody that watches my channel knows that we've been lied to about everything, and that sci-fi is another form of disclosure. And so I just came back from another alien event this weekend, and Carrie Cassidy was there, and she kept talking about Dr. Neruda, the Wingmakers, and the ACIO. And one thing that we do agree on is that our world is being invaded by negative AI, as you know. And she mentioned the Anonymous, and she mentioned the different levels above top secret within the advanced contact of intelligent organization. She mentioned that even within that group, which is a secret group within the NSA, there is also a, you could say, elite core that is known as the Labyrinth Group.
Yes.
And they work directly with the Cordium. Now, on a different note, I've been talking about this infiltration of the Galactic Federation by the negative AI known as the Mitra Etorian. And it has been confirmed by whistleblowers that were interviewed by Michael Sala in the last 2 months that these Etorians are pretty much the same beings known as the Anonymous, which is a synthetic race. Do you have any comments about that? Like, and also, who is the Cordium that communicates with the Labyrinth group within the ACIO?
Okay, so Cortium is very classified. Let me hold on a second.
Sure.
Cordium. I have the information on Labyrinth in front of me. Yes. Okay. Labyrinth are a group within the Alien Contact Intelligence Organization that communicate with different extraterrestrial groups, such as the Numbers Group, Council of Five, and Cortium. So Cortium, I don't have that in my notes, but I know we have the Numbers Group, which is a count. They act like overseeing different intergalactic councils, like the UN on planet Earth, and there's the Council of Five, guard this region of space, which is our solar system, belongs to the different planetary corporations. So Aurelia, Irigo, Genevo, the Redan, and the Emerthers. So, and I wrote here in my notes, information about Cordium is very secretive and unavailable at this time. So, Ismail, why don't you answer the question? Who do you think Cordium is?
Well, I believe that the Cordium is the corrupt faction of the Federation that has been infiltrated by the Mitra AI signal. That, of course, has been taking down galaxies and universes for billions of years. I think my audience, for those that are familiar with my work, I've been talking about that, presenting this at conferences. And so I believe that the Cordium is the corrupt federation that is aligned with the Negative Orion Syndicate. And I believe that even at the highest levels of the ACIO, I think he went by the name of 15, right? Some guy with long hair. I believe that, and as revealed by Carrie Cassidy, all of these top private scientists that are working with the ACIO have enhanced themselves and their IQ to like the level of 400, I believe. And so they are pretty much trying to compete with these alien factions. But I believe that the Cordium is the corrupt federation. I believe that the Cordium is the corrupt federation, and the reason why they keep pushing disclosure, or they keep at least throwing it off when we were supposed
to. Like a slow disclosure timeline, a trickle disclosure.
Yeah, they want a trickle disclosure, and of course we know that the positive ETs and that the Earth Alliance they are not aligned with that. They want to disclose things now so that we could become part of an interplanetary civilization, at least for the general public. Would you agree?
Absolutely. So different factions have different agendas. Obviously, everyone's different, right? But so what can we do to force the fast disclosure timeline? I think the work that you're doing, that I'm doing, and many others are doing, also planting seeds, many of the audience members, you can talk about it to your family members. Good luck, right? If they're closed-minded. Like, anyway, I don't say. But so you can always plant seeds, and by help spreading the knowledge, we can help push a faster disclosure. But honestly, though, we really need to get some kind of help. A lot of the XPT say, well, we need to help ourselves. Like, we're not going to help you. That's their excuse, right? In my opinion, if somebody is trapped, and I even remember when I interviewed Jimmy Payne, he said that he was the original Captain Kirk. The whole Enterprise thing, that's all real. And he said that some of these extraterrestrials, like Vulcans, for example, if you see someone drowning, Ishmael, you're probably going to go out in the lake to rescue the child and pull it back, right? But a lot of extraterrestrials don't have that level of empathy to other beings. So ultimately, it's really on us. We've got to fix it, but I think we're going to need some kind of intervention, honestly. And I'm not talking about what do they call it? A fake alien invasion. So I believe that would create like a negative timeline. Mm-hmm. And I think what's going to happen, honestly, is one day all the ships are going to decloak, and next thing you're going to see our consciousness will be raised higher so that we can see what's already there. That's what I think is going to happen.
Absolutely. If any Project Blue Beam would have taken place, that I think it would have been more successful maybe 20, 30 years ago before the Great Awakening. But what I was told by Commander Valiant Thor, who is working with the Earth Alliance, is that there's too many people that have woken up. It is impossible. There's too many people that are aware of Project Blue Beam, and that's one of the reasons why that timeline was actually canceled. But even if in the event that they would try to pull off some sort of fake alien invasion using advanced holographic technology and CGI and all that stuff, there are contingencies that were in place by the Galactic Alliance to actually counteract that immediately, and so that would actually turn the tables on the Cabal if they were to pull their last card and force disclosure. At that point, we just the positives would just show themselves on massive motherships, and it would be inevitable. I mean, millions, and I would say probably even a good 2 billion people would be exposed to the motherships in the skies, and that would be it. It would be very hard for them to cover it up at that point when you have billions of people witnessing, massive ships everywhere worldwide.
Right. So they would either take the holographic projectors and turn it around so they project into space. So one of the projections they were going to do is like different religious features, like Jesus Christ or whatever, the Buddha, and then they were like, oh, Muhammad. So what the Federation would do, the positive one, right, the one that intervened, they would go into the holographic projectors and hack it and put like an evil demonic creature inside. They would. So so the problem is though. In that particular timeline, when humanity didn't like wake up on its own more, later down the road, maybe 100 years down the road, people weren't doing their education, they weren't doing their work, and next thing you know, they got enslaved again. So that's the other thing too. We needed to be able to get to the point where humanity could say no more, and then we have our 1,000 years of peace. Yeah.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. You mentioned that you actually knew Max Spears before he was taken out. Can you tell us a little bit more, or do you even know the project that he was involved with? I think he mentioned Project Oak Tree.
I don't know about. I don't have information on Oak Tree. Maybe some of your members, IBIS. I remember Max on a mission that I did. And I think it was on planet Centurion. It's a training planet for super soldiers. But as far as we were both in IBIS together. So in my particular case, they would put me in a cage with a brown spider. It was venomous. Mm-hmm. So the goal was for me to connect with the spider to try to become like it. They wanted to be that persona of the spider. And then they were injecting me with spider DNA. And that's when I talk about, and now this was a clone body, I think, guys. So I'm not Spider-Man. Just to let you know, but this clone was taken to the moon, and they would put these children in pods. They had these psychic children, and most of them were black boys, and they were black children. So they were, I think they were from a Zulu world, because if the black race could get activated, because they had these amazing superpowers in that. So they were using them for creating super soldiers. So when I meditated and tried to connect to that aspect. What I see is why the children are dissociating. They're trying to separate from their bodies, but they get tortured. The reptilian hatchlings would chase the children, eat them, and then they'd have to get regenerated. So, but this particular spider DNA allowed them to crawl on the walls, and of course, they could levitate too. So I was asking that aspect. I said, "Do you remember your mom?" And it's like, "What?" It's like, "My mom is the reptilian queen." I'm like, "Okay," and then remote viewing it, what I saw was there was a group of Palladians that went in there and rescued the children. So, but now that's just one clone body. I don't have an answer how many clones, but when I meditate, what I see is this long hallway corridor with these frozen cryogenic pods, right? And there's clones in all of them. So. And that's one of the things about the secret space program is that we are the product. Human trafficking is the product. Our DNA we're used as slaves off world. So your question was, what was your question?
If you knew Max Spears pretty well.
Awesome. Okay, so yes, I did know Max Spears. I met him back in 2011. So I had a special invite for the King James Bible ceremony of 2011. It was the 400th anniversary. I wanted to go because it's my belief. I have memories of being in Tudor, England. I was part of that group, and I wanted to go back to England to go see my ceremony with the Queen and all that. But I gave it all up because Max and I used the money instead to help him, to promote him to go to Wake and Aware. I went out to LA instead, picked him up, and we got to meet Carrie Cassidy, also Lorian Fenton. So Lorian was putting it on conferences in Northern California, namely San Francisco. So she put on the first Super Soldier Summit, and it was a great turnout. Now, my experience with Max, he is a very amazing person. He has When I remember him, he would channel some kind of like what they channel, like some reptilian Anunnaki or something, not on it, reptilians. And I do remember that one time. But Max had a lot of. He was a very troubled person. He would have been. He would have been selected. He was Orlando Bloom's roommate. He would have been selected to be an actor and have all that accolades had he his programming didn't break down. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But yeah, but over the years, I met many different super soldiers, and of course, I knew Casbolt back in the day. And this was the second super soldier summit with Casbolt. He said that there was a mass MyLab abduction, right? And of course, Max was there, and Gloria Fenton. So at this particular event, somebody broke into my room, like the it had like the little chain lock, right? So it was busted up, and I don't remember. I slept through the whole night. There was no way that how would I not know that chain? I would have heard it. Is what I'm trying to say. I would have woke me up. So the chain wasn't there. It was all busted, and also the doorknob was busted too. And so I asked James, what do you remember? And he said we were picked up. They stopped time. They brought in a Ryder truck. We were taken to Area 51, and then we were put Nazi uniforms and sent. I think he said we were on the Cassiopeia ship. And did a mission.
I'm familiar with the Cassiopeia ship.
Oh, okay. Say Cassiopeia. Anyway, so but soon after that, we watched James. Unfortunately, he had a lot of troubles, and I did what I could. This is very difficult for me to talk about, but all I can say is that I was there. I witnessed people come and go over the years. Some people only show up for a year or two, and sometimes the door opens, and that's where I've been very blessed to have these opportunities. But on the other hand, I've also been targeted too. Back in 2011, a group of reptilians shot me up some nanites, and I got this infection, black goo infection. And for years, it slowed me down to the point where I couldn't travel. Or I think there was 1 year I may have only done 1 or 2 interviews, maybe back in 2015. And, had I been more active and my health was better, I could have got to meet William Tompkins and all that. So, of course, William, a lot of people are no longer with us. But
right.
And then, of course, Max is no longer here. But I do have a channel message from Max. I've got that on my website. If you want to, I could read it.
Sure, yeah, because he was one of the most, I relate to him because of Project Oak Tree. When he mentioned what Project Oak Tree was all about, kind of reminded me about what my mother used to tell me when I was a kid, how they selected about 52 or is it 49 individuals where the mother was a surrogate and the father was an extraterrestrial celestial. And so they, of course, brood. The child was literally made on top of a ship or inside a ship. I'm sorry. It was genetically modified, where they were slicing and splicing. And the whole purpose of Project Oak Tree was to revive the gods and the heroes of old in modern times, to continue this war against the negative factions and the Orion Syndicate and the negative, black goo that's associated with the AI god and all that stuff. And to me, that really resonated a lot. So I started, of course, going deeper. And then I got a reading. I did a session with Misha Johnston. I don't know if you know who she is.
Oh, yeah, I know Misha.
You know Misha. Okay, so I did a session with her, and she did confirm that I was part of the positive Anunnaki, that I was from the lineage of Enlil Sus, and that I was a fractal of that. And so that explains why my mother was a surrogate and why she was chosen. And a lot of that has to do with her also being Rh negative blood type. So, a lot of the times they do, when they pick these surrogates, they have to be from particular bloodlines, right? In order for the experiment to work.
Absolutely. I was part of Project Surrogate.
Yeah.
In the book I write about how my name was James Martin Rillsberg, United States Army. I died in 79, and then they took my body and cloned it, but reanimated it as well. So I was Delta 1, but that was so everybody has a different trajectory. Typically, most super soldiers would have had some kind of past life as, like I said, a demigod. I had a connection with Perseus and Atlantis, but then later on, I was Hobie Baker, and that's why my last name's Rink. If you might know about hockey. So, and I write about that in my book, how a lot of these people were genetically modified, enhanced for a different variety of different experiments or whatever projects they were working on. And it's been going on for way longer than what you would think. I mean, for
absolutely
years. Absolutely.
Yeah. One of the things that was shared in the Super Soldier Secret Space Program panel in this alien event this weekend was the fact that the super soldier programs could be traceable to other civilizations as well. So they're not just associated with the breakaway groups that we have come to know, beginning with the Dark Fleet and the Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate and Solar Warden, but they go back to ancient times. And one of the things that was confirmed was that even the heroes of old, Zeus and Perseus, Hercules, they were all part of the program as well, and they were designed to combat the negative factions that were again trying to take over the world in ancient times. So it is a continuous battle that continues to the present day. And one of the things that I do recall from my own experience is that this program could actually be traceable back to the to other universes. You know, like our universe inherited this conflict, and that's why those programs continued. And so breakaway groups have been around for as far as I know, since the beginning of our universe.
Absolutely, thank you. So I write about that as some of the different types of super soldiers. Certainly, ancient super soldiers is something that, like the demigods of the old, there's beings that protect certain treasures. There's also connection with Sumerian incantations, magical spells. All that stuff is real. And I write about it in my book about another timeline I went to. It was called an Abitava. So an Abitava is a super soldier training camp, and they're located in Alaska. But this version of Alaska was where the Nazis won World War II. So America was split up, the American Reich. Of course, you have the Japanese Empire, and then Alaska was kind of shared between the different groups. So in this timeline, the kids were being trained hand-to-hand combat. They were just doing a lot of skirmishes, going out in the bush. And I do believe Casbillet and Max was there too. In this, anyway, so that's ancient super soldiers, and then every extraterrestrial group that, unfortunately, I would say maybe 3% of most people are negative. So 3 out of every 100, right? So there's always going to be problems out there, and you're always going to need a super soldier. And it's just the question is like, how do you create them? How do you treat them? And that's where we're through the work I've done, we've documented different career trajectories. So the one that I was on was a lot of torture and abuse, but there are some that are not as negative. And,
so I am aware of those, and that's the off-world program that I was involved in. Because I asked my mother, "Well, did they torture you? Did they torture me?" She goes, "No." She goes, "The beings of light that were conducting your development were," she called them angels. She called them seraphim, and they were so beautiful and loving and kind. And she kept asking them, like, "Why are you guys doing this again?" And they said, "Because we're preparing your son. Your son is chosen because of a last battle that is about to take place with AI in the future." And that's what she told me before she passed. Okay, that's pretty interesting. But I also had 60 years in back, 3 missing time scenarios when I was 16, 18, and then, of course, 19. At the end of 19, almost 20.
Yeah, that's typical. It'll take you at those ages. Right. Well, so my records show I served 330, according to Peter Insider. I don't remember 330 years of service, but I do remember parts of it. So absolutely. And that's the other thing, too, is many of these vets were supposed to be paid after the first 20 and back, which is voluntary. You're offered an opportunity to be paid, right? So you're not supposed to pay any income tax, no sales tax, no property tax. You're supposed to make a list of all that and get redeemed. The other thing that they promised us is $50,000 a year. So a lot of us are owed a lot of money, but nobody really wants to owe up to it, because then a lot of people are going to get paid and they're going to get recognized.
Exactly. I do have a question from my lovey. She says, "Can you ask James if super soldiers are also used on this world, or only if they are used in outer space missions? Like if the police here can't deal with something, does a super soldier do the work for them?"
Absolutely, certainly. There's different types of super soldiers for different types of missions, and many of them are created for off-world work. I mean, earlier on I mentioned about Lixodaden.
Mhm.
These type of beings could be like 18 foot tall, so they're not going to be doing missions on planet Earth. You're not going to. I mean, maybe they could if create a
That would scare the populace. If an 18-foot being was like set free in New York City.
Yeah. So as far as different types of work, missions off world, typically you could do searches and rescues, recon work. There's always security. There's um, offense, defense. Yeah. But a lot of colonies, there's a lot of conflict. Like I said earlier, 3% of everyone's negative. So there's going to be conflict. And every planetary corporation has their own different purpose or goals. So you can't really say, well, they're protecting everybody, right? Like, that's what we like to think. Like, they're not all of them are being used for good. And that's one of the things that we've learned. And of course, in my book, we've learned that a lot of super soldiers were they were used and they were abused, and they're also a victim too, even they were forced to do evil things. And one of the things they could do is take out what is it, the hippocampus, the part of the brain where you can convert someone into a total cyborg. I write about this in my book. They would take that top part of your skull off and put a glass plate right here, or a translucent plate, right? And they would go in there, constantly put implants, and they would try to make you into a full cyborg.
Mhm.
Yeah, like in what was it in the movie? I just watched the movie last night, Soldier from '98. But okay, so yeah, absolutely, off-world missions, and there's a lot of outer space missions. Some of these super soldiers do not even need a breathing apparatus. Some of them are used for time travel ops, so it's not just outer space. It could be different parallels. I know you love to talk about a lot of parallels, right? Other timelines, but certainly, and many people, like I said, the demigods of the old are some of the historical records that we have about it.
About the super soldiers, yeah, yeah. And since time is concurrently, those timelines are still happening right now, and they somehow are affecting our own timeline. But I believe I was told that we are in like the mainframe, so what happens here is going to affect all the other probable Earth realities and timelines. Now, one example of super soldiers involved here in our planet and not off-world is the cleaning up of the dumps, right? The deep underground bases. Would you say that some of the super soldiers were actually used in that project?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Um, I don't. I guess I should. Okay, yeah. There is this one story I could share.
Mhm.
All right, so there was this lady. She contacted me because she said this other person said I rescued her from an underground base, and I do regression work, so we did a little regression together, and what she saw was she was taken to this facility, strapped down, and then they would have a wild boar in the room, right? And
Mhm.
then they would release a small child. So the wild boar would tear apart the child, and then of course the girl that's strapped down, she can't do anything. It's a dark room. She hears the screams. It's dissociative, and the body is rotting for 3 days. So in this regression, this reptilian came in the room 3 days later, and she picked up a piece of the skull. Right, she rubs it on her arm, the hair on the arm. She's like, "Do you like how this tastes?" And then the reptilian said, "James Rink's listening to us." I'm like, "Oh shit." Sorry, I don't know if I was allowed to say that word, but yes, I didn't mean to say that word. But what I can say is we immediately got out of the trance. But yeah, so the group of super soldiers went down into the facility, shot up the base personnel, and she was rescued. And I was one of the super soldiers that did that. But and then there was this other mission, Mars. And this was I did with the Alex Diaz material. So this mission, we were sent in to exterminate a group of reptilian scientists who were working alongside human personnel. And when we got into this facility, we see like this long corridor, and there's like Cuban language, it's like the tall, the Cuban language, glyphs on the walls. And we get into this room, and there's a reptilian there, He's hissing. He's pissed off. He says humans are foul. They want us off of Mars. They said that the human personnel were killing their people, and they killed it. So there was a conflict, right? They're killing each other. So we were under orders to exterminate them, but instead we allowed them. We listened to what they said, and we allowed them to go through a portal to go back to wherever they went to. But
you guys failed in that mission. No, I'm just kidding.
When we got back, I don't remember this, but Alex says that he was strapped down, and they would stick a needle in you in the back of your spine. They would give you a drug called omnibulus, and it was a particular drug that prevents you from losing consciousness while you're being tortured. So yeah, there were certain programming they had to do on that stuff at that time. But anyway, so yeah, there's lots of searches and rescues constantly going on. But as far as liberation of planet Earth, I still think there's more work to do. And by the way, once planet Earth is liberated, it's not going to be over, guys. We have to liberate Mars, the solar system, and then there's I think John Whitberg says there's like 10 trillion humans and all the breakaways. So there's a lot of work to do.
Speaking of Mars, can you identify or disclose any of the extraterrestrials that you saw or that you experienced or that you fought?
Yeah. Okay. Mars. Well, I do recall that reptilian. I could. This one was. This is another funny story. This wasn't on Mars. So I was regressing this one guy, and he's like, normally under hypnosis, some people it takes forever. It could take an hour to get some people under, but immediately went under, and then for 10 minutes there was silence. And next thing you know, he starts speaking. He claims he's Yael. He says he's my son. I have like 4 hybrid Yael children, and said they took me onto this ship, right? And I was a kid, and there was a reptilian female there, and she really scared me. And like the humor, they thought it was funny that I got scared. And so they told the reptilian to go in the other room, the female. But later on, she turned out to be like a really nice friend, right? She was a really nice reptilian. But the thing is, like, the things that they think that were funny weren't really funny to me. And I was like, and every speech. So when you think about a different perspective, a different species, you have to think not human. It's not the same way, right? So every species has their own different. But as far as other races, we know there's like a mantis like group of beings. I think Tia, she talked about how she was sent into this on this mission to go and clear out these caverns, and these mantis type creature, really antis like antid beings, already surrendered and they were exterminated. So when the Germans got to the Mars, as far as when, I'm thinking maybe 1850s, maybe later. It all varies. But when they got to Mars, every part of Mars was already claimed by other beings, including there is an olive-skinned humanoid that lives in underground caverns nearby, so they can breathe the lower oxygen a little better than we can.
I wonder if they were like surviving remnants of the original Mars colony 4 million years ago.
I bet you they are. They probably are. And but every different quadrant of Mars is already claimed by other beings. And of course, the equatorial regions of Mars are not very suitable for human habitation, because even, of course, it could be 65 degrees. But the problem is there's all these electrical storms. It burns up all the equipment. So they found the northern latitudes were better. And of course, NASA's lying about how cold it is. So it's like the atmosphere is like being at 10,000 feet altitude on Earth near sea level, whatever you call it, because there is no sea level there, but on the low levels. But also, the air is thin, and it's it could be like 50 degrees. But at nighttime, it gets very cold. The original German colonies tried to build greenhouses on Mars. They found you can't heat it enough at night. So a lot of the food production, the facilities are all below ground. You were asking about Kruger. Kruger has a military core at Ares Prima, where of course they had Kruger is just a different planetary corporation that conducts security missions. So everybody, there's always different mercenary corps out there. But I served in Kruger, and I do remember Our bodies were enhanced. We were a lot taller, like 8 foot tall. You know, and of course they jack us up with steroids. But we were constantly being we were given unlimited amount of drugs, whatever we wanted, and there wasn't really much to do other than just be out there and just shoot things up. But okay.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Prime Arius is one of the strongholds that was established by the breakaway group known as the Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate. I just wanted to point that out there for my viewers because they're like, "What Prime Arius?"
Arius Prime. So
or Arius Prime, yeah.
Yeah. So ICC. Now ICC. The idea of corporations. The idea of ICC would have existed prior to the 1970s, but I don't think it was called. I believe the ICC. The name was the 19. What's up? What's that? Is that you?
I painted him in an oil painting of Ishmael as a super soldier.
Okay.
And that is
look at, wait. No, on the top right. That's like that's what I have on my T-shirt from my conference. That crystal. Yeah. I have the same thing. Yes. How did that's so weird.
Revelation. I think she had a vision of me serving within the off-world branch known as Radiant Guardians, and our main headquarters was on Ganymede, which is one of the moons of Jupiter. That's where we would go, and every time we had an off-world, or in this case, an off-universe, because the branch that I worked for, again, was an extraterrestrial branch that was working with other universes within the mining sector of Enzra, which is where our universe is a part of. And so the headquarters, just like the Lunar Operating Command for the Solar Warden Super Soldiers, well, the headquarters for the branch that I served in was actually Ganymede. And from Ganymede, the Jupiter Council would open up a portal to a specific universe that was about to get wiped out by the AI through black spiders that were just consuming worlds left and right. And they would open up a portal, and then we would transition into that universe within seconds, and then of course do our work and then come back, and they would pat us on the back and say, "Great, you guys just saved another universe. We'll see you guys again soon." That was funny.
Yeah, absolutely. I know.
Talking about the ICC.
Well, I remember Johann Fritz. He said that he was there was a sector of space that was being infected with the black goo, right? Mm-hmm. And they were told not to go there. There was a crew that went there to investigate anyway, and then they got the screams of the people as they were dying. So there are certainly whole solar systems infected with this stuff. And again, it's a remnant from the old Orion Wars, where I think a lot of those groups, hopefully we learned our lesson, right? Don't try to kill each other. So now that's why I know, like Dan Cooper, he says that instead of trying to bomb each other or throw black goo, what they do now is they have these matches where you do hand-to-hand combat, and whoever wins, supposedly, is in charge for at least a short period of time. But anyway, so you were asked about ICC. So now these planetary corporations have been around for, like I said, a very long time. We could talk about, so start with the Kruger Mercenary Corps. And we know that Gabriel Kruger, 1820s, he was born in 1820s. In the 1850s, he used time travel to go to the 1920s or 1917. And he set up Kruger Mercenary Corps. And in that particular timeline, the Nazis won World War II. So Kruger was it's like the world's biggest, the whole universe's biggest military contract, or at least for the Germans breakaway. And so Gabriel Kruger was handling all these, build tanks and super soldiers. So and then they have a base here in our timeline. So, and it's like that for some of these other planetary corporations, where we have a group like, let's see, another one. Mobius is outside of our timeline. They have a pocket reality. We have a group. I talk about Black Shield, where they make elixir out, and Black Shield was it's in Antarctica, but it's in a pocket reality where it looks like there's like a Tartarian type breakaway where everything's steampunk. Mm-hmm. So they trade with the other planetary corporations, and then we have groups like Monarch. Monarch is based in underneath Toronto and that side. So Monarch made a deal with the the Continental Army, right? They agreed to help the Continental Army, and so we've given them a treaty. So that treaty has allowed them to abduct people and continue their reign of terror over over these centuries. So So that's another group. Monarch is responsible for pretty much everything wrong on this planet, along with we talk about the Shaw House. So, and it's really kind of interesting because I remember some people would say they would have near-death experiences, and they would say they would go underneath the Tower Bridge in London, and they said that that's where Satan was located, right in the center of London. So Shaw House is headed by Janet Shaw, and she is the Sumerian goddess of the underworld, Arishagal, her higher self. And so Shaw House is responsible for all the human trafficking, Monarch, and the other planetary corporations. And they would, her sister, Janet Shaw, her clone is the singer, pop star, Taylor Swift. So she did have some musical abilities and they enhanced it. So you find out a lot of these people that are in charge of these planetary corporations have clones that are celebrities in our timeline. Like, for example, Kevin Spacey is a clone of Paul Serene. Paul Serene heads Monarch. So, okay, so yeah, so we know it's different timelines. Everybody has their own agenda. So who's going to win? I think ultimately humanity, our consciousness, is what's going to win because I believe that time itself is conscious, and time is trying to find its own best timeline, and so. That's why we do our spiritual work. Okay, I'm going to be quiet.
All right, so I have a question for you. So what kinds of enhancements, genetic-wise, technological, or even psychological, were used to turn you into a super soldier? Because I know my mother kept telling me that they were slicing and splicing, that they were using genetics from like different Michaels, the archangels. And then we're also bringing back genetics from Zeus, Hercules, Solomon, and all that stuff. Like, how can you describe how you became augmented?
Absolutely. So I was a Gen 5, so Gen 5 Ultra Soldier.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, Ultra Soldiers were created under Project Paperclip. And there's different generations. So not all super soldiers are Ultra Soldiers, but this particular aspect of me was. And so the different generations start off like we have the Korean War. We would take a few soldiers that had some psychic abilities, and that would be like Gen 0.
Mm-hmm.
And their DNA would be taken to make the next batch. It would be a batch of maybe like 700, and then they would pick maybe 20 from that. And then so that would be Gen 2. That would be like the 1960s or so. And then they were using more classic MK Ultra. And then as we get into the 70s with Gen 3, it would be more implants and drugs, of course, a lot of that. And then as we get to Gen 4, they'll become more biomechanical organisms where more cybernetics will place in them. So Gen 5 would be half cybernetic and half human. So Gen 5 super soldier they would put wires going up and down their spine and in their mouth, and these wires would create a state of they call it it's okay. It's in the Heather material. By the way, if you read the Heather material, that particular base is below Baldwin Park, Florida, and that's going to be 10 miles from the conference in Orlando. So we may do a little field trip over there. So, but anyway, so biomechanical, more and more cybernetic, and what they found is I believe it was the best mix, because as you became more and more biomechanical and more cybernetic, sure, that super soldier can punch through a concrete wall. Sure, that super soldier can breathe without be dropped in the ocean, whatever, no breathing apparatus. But they found that they lost their humanity. So the humanity through our DNA, by activating our DNA, our higher to a higher state of consciousness, they can get those abilities, and those abilities were more powerful than the physical abilities through the cybernetics. So anyway, so they found them become more and more cybernetic. Like the more, I think we're on Gen 11, they would find that they had like blood that was white. It would bleed white, and that was actually featured in the Alien series, which is a documentary, by the way. That was all getting the Senator Bird's office. The Alien movies, there was a cyber that bled white. And anyway, so and then they would have like a power center, power core, which could explode and blow up a whole city if need be. But these particular super soldiers would not be placed into a civilian setting. just in case I don't believe they would most likely be genetically enhanced and kept into a facility until their extermination to the next generation of super soldier.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, thank you for sharing. Now, in your book, The Lone Wolf, which is this, by the way, guys, for those that want to order it, where can people get your book, by the way?
Well, it is listed on Amazon.
Okay.
I finally got it on there, but you can also go to neologicaltech.com and purchase a copy there. I'll sign that if you buy it from there. That's my website. So,
well, my question is, in your book, you mentioned being deployed on missions both on Earth and off-world. Like, can you share one particular mission that left the deepest impression on you, even up until today?
Deepest impression up to me. Well, from off-world or on-world?
Off-world.
Okay. Well, I think the Hobie Baker information means a lot to me because, in this particular life, I'm not the best athlete. So I'm just, if I can try to tune into that, then I could see that whole timeline where being an athlete, you're always constantly on the move, and you have to be able to remote view and project your consciousness to visualize where all the different projectiles are coming from, right? So in that particular timeline, my whole life was just a giant race. I was always just trying to get ahead. And then in World War I came, and then the plane came down. So the historical records show that he died on a foggy day. It was the last day of his service, and he was about to come home, and he died. So he shouldn't have died. So what happened is Dark Fleet picked him up, and he was taken to the moon. There are stadiums in the moon where they would train super soldiers or pit them against each other, right? So they fight. But so athletes in general are highly desired assets for navigation assets. So I was a second-class navigation asset in Nachtwaffen as well, and they're always looking for athletes to do that. So as a navigation asset, you're always going to be analyzing asteroid positions, ship trajectories, and I get a flashback of a memory. I see myself like in a ship, and I'm like, I have my own room, but I don't really leave it much because I can't stand being doing this for them. But they wipe your memory so you don't know, and
Right.
they tell you, oh, that's all you know, right? So, but anyway, so I do remember that. So, okay, what else did you want to go into?
Well, I also want to know what kind of advanced technologies did you personally interact with that the public
Absolutely.
had no knowledge of?
Yeah, so we had little armbands that would show you, like a holographic projection, show you where the friendlies were when green and the enemies were red. We would also, of course, have the HUDs. Sometimes the HUDs would be built into the left eye would be cybernetic. In my case, it was cybernetic and heat seeking, as well as interdimensional seeking. So the HUD would be built right into the optic nerve. They would also, of course, depending on the type of super soldier, you could have programmable matter where weapons could be popped out of your back, and next thing you know, you have a gun, right? So you need it. But then other technology could be portable portals. So typically they wouldn't go very far, but be far enough to get you out away from the scene, right? You could do that. There was technology for, of course, they would give you enhanced. I'm not going to call them femto knights, and what that does, it's a type of biobots that would attach to your DNA, and it would help create states of higher consciousness to what they call a golden form. Golden form is a type of, it's like a Kundalini activation where you could levitate, you could pass through matter. Of course, you could be so strong, like my altar could be so telekinetic, you could lift an elephant, right? Or so we have bot programmable matter. Talked about the HUD, right? Also, there would be hold on a second. They could cut off an arm, put a cybernetic arm on. Some super soldiers had that ability.
Kind of like Bucky from Captain America. He had a metal arm.
Yeah, exactly. And or any appendages. They couldn't directly do that. But let's see here. Any other advanced technology I want to share? Oh yes, now I remember. Yes, so there's something called an informationer. Typically, informationer.
Okay.
So an informationer is a asset that would be back at the base. Typically, they would have they have astral abilities, psychic abilities, and they would telepathically communicate with the super soldier on the field to give them directions, orders, or any information, right? So we're finding a lot of SSP veterans served as informationers, because just as much as you need the guy to go out to do the offense, right, and the defense, but of course you have somebody back at the base. Then of course you're going to need medics, because not of them all come back alive, so you can throw them into a regen tank. I don't personally remember being in a regen tank, but I do remember being in some kind of trip seat. I had flash of memory of that. But so the trip seat protocols are what this technology would do is it could blank slate you all your memories, and then they could insert a new memory, a new program. So let's say we want to load into Ishmael a program how to operate a helicopter, right? But that maybe something a little bit more advanced, flying platform, and then they could do that. So, or they could put whole personality profiles, and then after the mission, the mission, the memories of the mission could be downloaded back into the database onto the crystal computer, and then the super soldier would be blank slated again. And we're finding, like for example, Kruger, they would blank slate the super soldier, put them in stasis, and so that super soldier asset is constantly being used, doesn't remember anything, they're not being paid, they're not being compensated, they have no life, right? And I found that out, right? So so there's different ways to do it. So we have the trip seat technology, and this particular technology could be used to liberate planet Earth, because it'd take 2 hours to learn the language in a trip seat, or we could do like a PhD in I think like 2 weeks. Oh no, I'm sorry, 2 days. 2 days for a PhD, or 2 weeks for all PhDs. Everybody, we could end ignorance on this planet. Now, unfortunately, the technology is used. Honestly, I think it's going to be, if med beds are released, it may be another 100 years before they release a trip chair. But anyway, so we have trip chair technology, the regen tanks. Is there anything else you like? Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it for this conversation.
Yeah, and how can you describe, or can you describe, like any spacecraft, any weapon systems, or even healing? I guess you just described some of the healing modalities, but can you describe any spacecraft or weapon systems that the general public has no clue of?
That's a really good question. So let's take example for a typical solar warden craft. Now, what we find is the occupants of the craft, there might be different segments within this craft, and each segment there might be one person, an officer, right? The officer would know what the other segments are doing. So everyone on that craft doesn't really know what's going on in the other groups. So that's how they would help keep with the secrecy. So even if you were to get your memories back, you would only remember one little part of the ship, right? So I don't remember the exterior of a craft. I know the Aphelion I was stationed on. I don't remember the exterior, but the battle cruisers are typically 20 miles long, and they're shaped like the dreadnoughts in Star Wars. Not exactly like that, but wedge shaped like that for Noctuoffen. But as far as interior technology, I remember a bed we would lay in, and it would you would telepathically become a part of the ship. You can your consciousness could control the ship through there's like 3 beds we would lay in. But I'm also was used in different aquatic super soldier programs. I remember doing missions in different submarines, but typically sometimes they would send us trying to find treasure off world or on world, and anyway. Okay.
Very fascinating stuff. Very fascinating. And just to let you know, my audience is very open-minded, so they're not. They do believe a lot of this. Okay. How does time manipulation work in terms of time travel, jump rooms, parallel realities, and how does that play into the missions?
Okay. So now you're asking about the ARC. So that was coined by astronaut Ken Johnson, who, by the way, had a stroke. So,
I don't think it was natural. I think it was induced by a directed energy weapon.
yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah. By the way, it seems like a lot of people are getting strokes. At least with my conference that's coming up, we had 2 people that had a stroke. And anyway, but so your question was, it wasn't about strokes, was it?
No. My question was about like, can you describe how time manipulation works, time travel, jump rooms, and parallel realities?
Yes. Okay. So it was last year, or it seemed like it was last year. I went to LA. I did a presentation at the Getty. So one of the things I do is I work with different mediums, and I wanted to put a presentation together about the jump room and the Getty. So there are a variety of different jump rooms all throughout LA and really all over the world. How many in the network? Maybe 5,000 different ports of origins in the network. But these typical jump rooms would look like an elevator shaft, and they would connect you with other. You could not. It's not just here on planet Earth. You could go off world, and as far as the extension, I believe it goes out to the solar system. I don't think it's going to go much further than that. But we're also finding that these jump rooms could go through time. So the network started in the 1950s, and I think it goes up to the 2050s. And the reason why is because they're using the technology to create a transhumanism agenda. So the timeline. So what they're doing is that they're taking 90% of the internet infrastructure was built in the cybernetic factories on Mars. Of course, they just hand it out to the the maintenance workers, and it's like, oh, okay, here's your fiber optic cables, but they don't say, well, it's actually built on Mars. So so it was built in these cybernetic labs because the internet is being used to harness human consciousness through the search engine searches that you do. The AI can manipulate that and try to control you or so we're finding that the jump room technology, of course, is going back and forth through Mars, bringing back advanced technology to help control humanity. But in 2050, there's a transhuman timeline. So, but I believe in different alternate realities, and I think every time you would go through time, it would change. So, like for instance, let's take the Montauk Project back in the 1970s, right? Or it was late 70s. So they would go into the future, and they would find that there was Terminator bots everywhere, right? The Terminator timeline. And that particular timeline, it was August 29th, 2027. So they would take that information, put it into a classified file, it get redacted, and then Hollywood would say, oh, it was August 29th, 1994 or 1993, whatever it was, the Terminator movie. So, but then they would go back and would change. Like we would, I know there was during the timeline where Hillary Clinton won the presidency, there was 5 nukes that went off. I think one was DC, New York, Paris, Tel Aviv, something like that. But and they found that the nuclear fallout was slowly just ruining everybody. There was no economy left, but the food supply was almost nothing. So then they would come back, change the timeline, make sure she doesn't win, right? And then we get reset, and then they find Trump is now the president, and now there's so he got to be president right twice, right? So. And then then it was the Terminator timeline. So they would go back in time, and then this time President Trump doesn't win the second term, right? And so now what's going to happen? I think according to Kusal, I'm sure you know Kusal, but he says 2027, I think, is when the new timeline, when Federation contact will occur. But ultimately, I really think that's up to us. What we want as a collective consciousness. But the good news is that in August of 2019, the human egregor consciousness turned more than 50% positive. So that's why somebody says, yeah, so that's why a lot of the negative timelines are not manifesting, is because as we become more positive, the plans of the dark side can't materialize because we can stop them, right? So we don't see a dirty nuke in New York City at Times Square, and I know that's come up a couple of times. and I still think that that may not happen, but don't quote me on that. Anyway, so
Well said. And how did being part of the super soldier program affect your sense of identity and free will, James?
okay, so as a teenager, I lost my ability to speak, and there was a lot of MK Ultra, a lot of dissociation. So typically, what would happen is the super soldier asset, would be expected to self-terminate at a certain age, and those assets, and that's a terrible waste.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I set the network up that I did, called the Super Soldier Talk and Healing Soul Survivors, because if we can educate people that the reason why you feel like you're dissociated, that you don't remember your childhood, you're getting needle marks, your family or everybody around you feels like handlers, and you may not even know that that's what it's called, but you're being constantly gaslit. You're getting memories, dreams of serving off world, doing missions. You don't understand it. You think it's just a dream, right? So yeah, if you don't do your spiritual work, a lot of times the Omega programming will get activated. I know you like to use that word Omega, right? So the Omega, of course, I know you refer to it as an AI, right? But the Omega programming is the self-termination programming. It's the end. And a lot of super soldiers are expected to self-terminate. So that's why we do the healing work we do. We do the meditation, spirit, and then when the memories start coming forward, you won't do yourself in. And that's where they were wrong, because the people that used us in these projects are evil, right? We know, like the head of well, not the head. There were some Thuban Draco there coming to Montauk, and they were like some of the lower echelons from hell. Their souls, right there. So, and what they thought they could do is take ascended angel technology, because we're all basically like me. I'm like anyway, I don't want to talk about, but what I can't say is, like, they need people who are angelics to go into these bodies, and they think they can make us evil like them by doing MK Ultra, torture, traumatizing, force them to do evil. But what happened is that the super soldier has transmuted it all. Well, it might still take some more time to do it, but well, that's the goal, right? But anyway, okay.
Fair enough. Yeah, thank you. And you've spoken about soul fragmentation and memory suppression. Can you explain how these techniques were used on you?
Absolutely. So typically, like the torture traumatization would begin in the womb, right? So for me, it's a little controversial to talk about this, but it looks like multiple clones were made of me, and the original that my mom had was sent to the moon at the age of 3, and then I was put in its place. So I couldn't tell you what happened before that. I don't remember. But what I can say is that typically the asset would be placed under torture trauma. They would put needles in certain parts of the body. It's very traumatized, usually under the fingernails or in other spots. And that would create alters. So once you start dissociating, of course, they would place you in families that were not necessarily the most nurturing. It's not always the case, right? But I'm talking about the classic MK Ultra. So, and then they would take the child. They would be placed into like a pit of dead bodies, and then you would feel like you're dead. And then they were trying to bring like attached demons. There was this other memory I have in this Monarch orphanage where they were giving us drugs to prepare us for the secret space program, but all these drugs did is just make you want to throw up. And if you try to if I meditate and try to tune into it, there's like demons inside the orphanage where these kids are taken. And again, these are all clone bodies when this is done. So even though I'm here, I'm still there. My soul is in both bodies at the same time. So these memories can come back if you are able to integrate yourself. So certainly, and then they would expect you to either kill a puppy. They would give you a puppy. I don't want to remember but then once you pass that test, you would be expected to kill another child, and then they would be reanimated, of course, right?
Yeah.
And so that was under Project Ibis with the the spider and all that, the dissociation. So yeah, now some super soldiers were not necessarily used that way. We have something called Project Moonshadow, and under which Randy Kramer was part of. So what they were experimenting with. Let's see if we can genetically enhance these super soldiers from birth and train them and use positive reinforcement. Now, what they found is that the positive reinforcement works better, but it takes more time. And so it takes much longer to do. So yeah. Any other MK Ultra programming, pain reversal, pleasure, yes. And then at that point, they would place us. I remember a military base in the mountains of North Carolina where there was Germans there, and we would then, once we passed for certain protocols, they would either decide, are we good for a super soldier, or we're going to be an inflammationer, or some of them are going to be used for well, if you get to that stage, you won't be used for food, but and then you would place in different programs. So once I passed through like the Montauk project, then they would send us into other projects as well, off world. And a lot of the survivors of the Montauk project were wanted, even though they were damaged goods. They were wanted because they had a lot of abilities. So, yeah.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing. Now, what advice do you have for others who feel like they might have been part of similar programs?
Well, first of all, you need to do your spiritual work. You need to start meditating or whatever spiritual practice that you do. That's very important. It would be very beneficial if you could get away from the people that are gaslighting you in your life. Usually there's going to be somebody who's going to do that. That may not always be the case. You may not be able to do that, but that's the second thing I would recommend. Third thing you could do, you could start doing dream journaling, and that will help you get some of your memories back. Now, I was doing dream journaling for a while, and a bunch of pages got taken from my notebook. So I probably should start doing it again, or maybe I should do videos or dream. I don't know. I don't want to waste people with all my dreams, but what I can say, so you could do that. You could also, let's see here, other spiritual work. You get a meditation device to help you relax. You can do that. And you could do some hypnosis, regression work. I have a list of people on my website under supersoldiertalk.com, and click on the MyLab Recovery Network. So some people may want you. I recommend you do regression work, self-hypnosis, first of all, and then do some regression, and then you can go to the psychics and the reviewers and all that. But try to get some of your memories back first, and then just use the others for like confirmation. For any other healing work you can do, you can subscribe to my channel. You can learn about other experiencers, because you will see that you're not alone, because there's a lot of people that are experimenting about. Yeah. Okay.
Your channel is Super Soldier Talk on YouTube, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Rumble?
So
Yeah.
I recommend you go to Rumble because the full archive is there. Now, you can also, you should also go to neologicaltech.com, purchase a copy of my book. You could go to healingsoulsurvivors.org and make a donation. We do need some more funds to get the conference off the ground. And you could go to Super Soldier Con.
Yeah, I was going to say, tell us about the Super Soldier Conference coming up this October.
Absolutely. So it's going to be in Orlando, Florida, October 8th to the 12th. We have about 22 speakers. Many of them are secret space program veterans. And we've got a great match of vendors, and we have a food package. I've got 10 more hotel rooms. If you're interested, you can get a bundle of a hotel room, a food package, which is 12 meals, and it'll get your admission. So go to supersoldiercon.com. Send me an email, a team@supersoldiercon.com. We're looking for vendors and sponsors. We have a half-off package for people who want to sponsor us. We don't really need that much more money, but we need your listeners to go to supersoldiercon.com and purchase a ticket, and that will help us out, because we want to get Ishmael Perez there, right? I mean, there was some discussion about that, but okay, no promises, but yeah. So I set up the Super Soldier Activation Conference because I want to help heal people, activate their abilities, and also bring together a network of soul survivors, is what I call them, that has experiences in these projects to learn from each other, to heal, and also to have a great time, right? So you're going to have a good time too. And so the conference is from Thursday to Sunday, October 8th to the 12th, Orlando, Florida. And then the next day, we may go to Universal or a theme park, where I'll just hang out, have a good time. And yeah, so go to supersoldiercon.com, get your tickets as soon as you can. So
Wonderful. One last question. What role did spirituality, consciousness, or your higher self play in helping you cope with overcoming the trauma?
absolutely. So when I first started off with my soul mission many years ago, I had Archangel Michael visit me, and he handed me a torch of blood, and of course, it's holding the sign of the Trinity and all that, my religious programming back then. So I was always wondering, well, what does that mean? So ultimately, the message is that even through the darkest of times, we're always there. We're always going to be protected, and we have divine angelics who do care. They do care. I know a lot of them are controlled, and they do what they're supposed to do. But ultimately, there's always a divine purpose in all this. Even in the darkest of times, the darkest of places, you can bring light into that, and that's what I have done with the super soldier stuff. Is that we've helped shed light on a topic where, if I wasn't doing this work, Ishmael, a lot of people would have committed suicide by now. Do you know that, right? We're saving lives. Right. So it's not just that, we're helping people become aware of handlers and what to do about them. And unfortunately, what are you going to do with a narcissist, right? But not all handlers are narcissists. Okay, anyway, no comment. But what I can say is that we're helping a lot of people, and that's why we need you to help support this movement, the Super Soldier movement, and to come on out to the Super Soldier Activation Conference and support us.
Wonderful. Galactic Rose 111 said, "I'll be there."
Awesome, thank you so much. And maybe I could send you the link to the packages where it has the hotel room. Right now, they took our discount away, but I do have a few more rooms I can get you in, so you get the discount hotel rooms. Okay.
Nice. And then I do have one more question. So what motivated you to sharing your story in Lone Wolf, your book, despite the risk?
Well, when I first started off, there wasn't really a network to help people like me. I mean, a lot of times, many of these folks became extremely unstable and would be either put in a psych ward, and nobody would really know. And that actually did happen to me. When I first woke up with some of my SSP memories, I had a psychosomatic split where I couldn't move because my alter had taken me over. And back then, I didn't really understand that. Unfortunately, most institutions that are in place to help people they're not equipped to help people like this that were in these projects, because they're mouthpieces of the cabal. Even though, sure, they may be a Christian, but they work for the cabal. If you're not actively, if you don't recognize that UFOs are real and all that, then you're asleep. You're part of Satan's minions, in my opinion. But that's why I wanted to do this, because I wanted to create a network through Super Soldier Talk where people could come together and heal, because I didn't have that. I had this paralysis. I couldn't move. And next thing you know, they're talking about locking you away. So, and that's where I've learned over the time that you got to do your self healing. You can't look outside yourself. You have to look within and do your own work. Yeah.
Absolutely. Any final words or thoughts that you want to leave us with before we end this discussion?
Sure. Absolutely. So everybody go to supersoldiertalk.com or Rumble and check out some of the videos. I'm doing a series with Jimmy Payne, and so Jimmy Payne. It was the original Captain Jim of Star Trek, and we talked about the Alien series. We're doing. Yes. Okay. So check out some of the interviews I've done. Also check out the conference, supersoldiercon.com. Again, we would love to have you as a vendor. It's 4 days. You can help sponsor us. You can support this movement. We do need your money and tickets. So go to supersoldiercon.com. And you can also go to healingsoulsurvivors.org and make a donation. So over the last couple of days, we've had a great turnout. Great. I want to say thank you to everybody that has donated. We still need more, and we're almost at the finish line. Thank you all. Thank you, Ishmael.
Oh, you're welcome, James. Well, thank you so much for being my guest, and I'm sure we'll see more of each other, whether on a live or in person. And I will let you know by the end of this month if I will be attending the conference. If not, it's all good, but I'm going to do my best to go as well. Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. Well, may the God force be with you all, and we will see you guys all. I guess it is Wednesday. Normally I go live on Wednesday nights, but I might not go live till next Saturday, guys, just because of the fact that I went live earlier today. But for those that are just jumping on, make sure you guys watch this from the beginning. James dropped a lot of very good information regarding super soldiers, off-world programs, pocket realities, and so on and so forth. So I'll talk to you guys another time, James. May the God force